He brings a professional record to the ring consisting of 49 victories, including 27 knockouts, with 7 losses and 2 draws. He comes to us from Evansville, Indiana, USA. Please welcome the challenger and former world champion, Tom Boom Boom Johnson. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out over the red corner, wearing black, trimmed with gold, his weight, 8 stone, 13 3/4 pounds. His professional record, 10 victories, including 3 knockouts to his credit, with only 1 defeat and 1 draw. Ladies and gentlemen, the pride of Glasgow, Scotland, the reigning and defending IBO Inter-Continental Featherweight champion, Scott Harrison.
It's another terrific chance, this, for Scott Harrison from Cambuslang in Scotland to show what he can do. Only 22 years of age.
You know what I expect of you. Give me a good clean contest. Best of luck to both of you.
Harrison was terrific in beating the 2-time world champion Tracy Harris Patterson at Madison Square Garden on the Lewis Grant bill in April. Now he comes up against Tom Boom Boom Johnson, a pro for 14 years who made 11 defenses of the IBF featherweight title before losing to Prince Nassim Hamed in this very arena. So Harrison in the black trunks here, and a big question here, Glenn, is how much does Boom Boom Johnson have left?
Well, you'd think he still has a little bit left. You don't know how much, but you know, he's been around for a long time. He's been with some very good fighters, ex-world champion. You'd think he'd have forgot a lot more than Harrison will have learned yet, but Harrison is coming up very well, and this is a great opportunity to add another big name to his record.
Johnson has lost 4 of his last 9 since his world title days, including against British boxer Charles Shepherd up in Carlisle. He's fighting on his 36th birthday, the former world champion. But he says he has his desire back, and for a time he reckons he lost it around the time of that Shepherd fight. Well, let's see.
Well, Harrison, a very different fighter than Charles Shepherd. Much better textbook boxer. Certainly not the brawler that Shepherd is, but you know, he's looking to add more experience, and you know, he's really coming along very well, Harrison.
Only his 13th pro fight tonight, though, young Harrison. Certainly one of the best of the rising prospects in the country. It's the classic confrontation, really, of the bright prospect against the old stager, seemingly on the way down. Just a question, really, of how far down the mountain Johnson has gone. Well-schooled Harrison, got a good attitude to it, very dedicated. And one thing that worried me about Johnson last night, it took him 85 minutes to make the weight and 3 attempts.
Yes, that's a lot when you're 36 years of age to take out of your body when you've been going, you know, there's a lot of miles on the clock for Johnson.
Can he show us here that he's not just a relic of his old self?
Well, Harrison doing the right thing. He's took the center of the ring. He's making Johnson do the work, making Johnson go backwards. He's getting his hands up well for any counters. Quite a start, but Harrison doing the right thing.
Yeah, last time against Tracy Harris Patterson, though, Harrison just got better and better and better as the fight went on, didn't he?
Yes, he really warmed to the task, and he was very impressive in that fight.
He was a very wide winner on the judges' scorecards. Just working quite cautiously behind his jab at the moment, having a look, Harrison, really, in this first round, and blocking a lot of Johnson's attempted blows with his arms. Quiet opening round, Glenn.
It was quiet. I still think Harrison did more of the work. He was trying to push Johnson back. He was catching most of Johnson's shots. He didn't want to do too much. You know, he normally starts pretty slow, but he's given Johnson an awful lot of respect, as you would. This is a guy who knows an awful lot, who's been around, former world champion. So he's doing the right thing, just seeing what Johnson has. You're feeling the power of Johnson's punches, just seeing if there's any sting still there.
58 fights, and he's only ever been stopped once, Tom Johnson, and that was right here against Nassim Hamed in 8 rounds in February of 1997. I think Naz caught him just at the right time, don't you?
I think he did, but there's certainly no shame by being stopped by Nassim Hamed, one of the best punchers in the division.
So second round of this Intercontinental Featherweight Championship fight. And it's good, I think, that the Harrison camp have taken gambles slightly with their man. They're not prepared to just give him soft options on the way through. They think he's good enough to be fighting these name opponents, and they've gone for it a bit. It's quite refreshing, that, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I think they obviously have very high hopes for Harrison. I think it's right to put him in with name people, especially like this. It's taking a chance, but it's a calculated gamble that, you know, Johnson is on the slide. It's also a very good name to have on the record with a win next to it.
Doubled up nicely on the jab and then threw in the right hand, Scott Harrison. He's the Commonwealth champion, by the way. This would be the lesser of the 2 titles that he holds. As is so often the case these days, the belt itself here doesn't really mean too much, but the fight is of pretty good significance. Good defensive work tonight from Harrison. He's blocking nearly everything that Johnson's trying.
Well, I think that was one of the things we were a little critical of him. There wasn't much to be critical in New York, but one of the things was his defense. At times he was a bit straight up and took a few of the jabs from Harris Patterson.
Yeah, his dad, who trains him, said that a lot of those jabs weren't landing, that he was stepping back out of range, but I think a few of them did. Just trying to do the job methodically and quietly early on, Harrison. Good body shot from him.
He's picking the right shots, his jab's working well. He's just upping the tempo when it needs be and banging in some decent solid body punches. Sometimes just feeling out with the jab, just trying to get the range, but then putting more power in other punches.
Tom Johnson has won his last 2 since the Shepherd defeat, but the last one was against a 42-year-old called Felipe Garcia, and Garcia had lost 6 of his last 7, so that's the kind of caliber opponent he's been beating. People really shouldn't be in the same ring with him, frankly.
Well, Johnson trying to unload, trying to get that right hand going, get his rhythm into play, but just being stopped from doing that by good defensive work from Harrison.
Just a little bit of blood on the hair of Scott Harrison. I don't know if there's some cut on his head, and maybe. It's just working nicely behind that jab at the moment, and they've obviously been working on defense since that American appearance.
Yes, he's doing well, catching the punches from Johnson, picking them off with his right hand, and another decent round from Harrison without exerting himself that much.
I reckon he's won both the rounds so far, don't you?
Yes, most definitely. It's a better start from him. It's a quieter start, but he's doing the job with the jabs. You see there, Harrison 15 to just 5 by Johnson. Johnson just not getting through with his jabs. Harrison just picking them away, and then Harrison mixing up with some good solid punches to the body. The right hand went in pretty well a couple of times.
Well, when this fellow started his professional career, Scott Harrison was just 8 years old. There's the thought.
That puts it into perspective a little bit. He's been around a long time, was a fine champion, and still has the desire to be in there with these young guys.
He got the bug to box, Scott Harrison, watching men like Ben and Eubank appearing in Glasgow. I think once he actually crept into one of their entourages on the way to the ring. It helps when your dad used to be a Scottish lightweight champion. You can get in on the blind side a bit sometimes. He clearly hasn't lost that bug either. Harrison, remember, in the black shorts here, the young Scot, 22 years of age. Johnson boxing on his 36th birthday. Some people go out for a quiet candlelit dinner on their birthday, others have fights.
Well, it really is amazing what motivates fighters like Tom Johnson. You know, they've been there, done it all before, and yet still want to get up, even on a birthday, and get in the ring.
He says he wants to retire by winning a world championship again, but I must say, I think any bookmaking company would give you about 100 to 1 against that at the moment. Just seems to have lost his edge, doesn't he? Looks a bit plodding and laboured in there at the moment. And Harrison not being asked too many questions by the veteran. Not yet, anyway.
Yes, he still knows the moves. He's still got the rhythm. He just hasn't got that snap and sharpness that he once had.
When he was world champion, he was a very smooth technician, Tom Johnson. It was a 4-year reign, and he was quality. You just hope, really, that he isn't going into that worrying phase when men who were great fighters enter a kind of world of self-delusion. Good left hook from Harrison.
Well, again, in this round, he's shown good variety, good right hand there, used the left hook. There was an uppercut earlier on. He's mixing his punches up well. He's learning very well as he goes along, Scott Harrison.
He looks much, much more experienced, doesn't he, than a guy who's only had 12 fights before tonight.
Yes, he does. I mean, he's not being unkind. He looks older than his 22 years. He's very mature, carries himself well, and, you know, he doesn't get phased out. You know, very impressive in New York.
Having said that, he won't be too pleased that he was 4 ounces over when he first weighed in. Not much, but it's one of those things that just irritates a man who's trying to be the consummate young pro. Harrison might be the kind of young featherweight who, given another year or two, could be knocking on the door of Nassim Hamed and Paul Ingle, our world champions at this weight.
Back to Glenn and Ian in just a moment or two, but as we settle in here at the London Arena, Lewis top of the bill against Botha later. Just a word, if you have ordered this special event on Sky Box Office tonight and have any difficulty receiving our pictures, the number to call is 08705 800 888. One final time, 08705 800 888.
So what about Johnson so far? What do you think, Clem?
Well, he hasn't showed anything special. I mean, he's putting out his jab. He's trying a few of the shots. There's nothing really got through of any note. He knows the, you can tell he knows the moves. He just, he's just not getting them off. He's just not doing the things you think his mind would want to do.
Maybe he can do it all in his head these days, but he's finding it harder to perform it with the body. Blue Trunks, the former world champion from Evansville, Indiana, now living at Southfield, Michigan. He owns a couple of clubs in that area. When we were over covering Nassim Hamed, he was inviting us out.
We didn't go, but did we, us being the consummate professionals that we are?
Of course. We're always in bed by 10. Good right hand from Harrison. You had your road running to do in the morning.
I did.
Now we'd like to see Johnson just look as if he means it a bit more. He's going through the motions so far, you feel. Harrison working away quite methodically, but quite respectful, I think, of Johnson's reputation.
Well, this is a great opportunity again for Harrison to shine. So, he needs to try and put on a pretty classy performance here. He's boxing well, but I think the point will come where, we want to see him do a bit more. Just pick it up, just show a bit of devil in there.
Just a little bit of a nick by the look of it under the left eye of Scott Harrison. Nothing much. Now trying to give it some angles now, Tom Johnson. He's probably been doing a little reconnaissance mission of his own. He won't have known too much about this fellow. They'd have got the phone call thought the money was okay, come over here, probably haven't seen too much of him, and probably Johnson's just been working him out and thinking about what he has to offer over these first 3 rounds or so. I wonder if he will just step it up a little now.
Well, he's trying to pick it up in this round. He's had a bit more success. Johnson landed a couple of body punches, caught Harrison a few times with a jab early in the round, and he's just trying to pick it up. He's got Harrison on the defensive more now.
Higher work rate here from Johnson. He gets in with a good right hand as well. Just looked a bit disorganized for a moment. This is more meaningful action here in the 4th. Was that just a spurt from Johnson, or will he sustain it? Lovely jab, well picked from Harrison.
Well, Harrison's starting to pick it up a bit now, maybe waking up a bit late in this round. Let Johnson get off a bit.
Nice repertoire from Harrison. Jabs, right crosses, and then dipping to throw the hook to the body as well. But a better effort from Johnson in this round too.
Johnson trying to get that right hand working. There's some good punches to the body then. Johnson's best round so far.
Well, let's go to Adam Smith. I think he's got Spencer Oliver with him, the former European champion.
Interesting start here, Spencer. Scott Harrison, first 3 rounds, but then Boom Boom's come right back.
Yeah, Boom Boom looked a lot better in that round, looked a lot more comfortable. Scott Harrison's, he's got to start picking the pace up a bit more. You know, Tom Boom Boom Johnson's an old man. He should be really jumping on him, trying to wear him down to try and force his late stoppage. But at the moment, he's showing him too much respect and giving him too much room, and he's allowing Boom Boom Johnson back into the fight.
We said before that Johnson may be shot. He's proved there that he might not be.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a case of that. I think it's just that Harrison's giving him too much respect, standing off too much and giving him too much room. And Johnson will always mess him around. He's an experienced fighter.
Thanks, Spencer.
Spencer Oliver, part of our team tonight. Now can Johnson continue to put in a better effort as he did in the 4th? This is round 5. It's due to go 12. Up in Scotland, they've got some hopes that Scott Harrison might develop into a real star. They've waited a while for a really big one since the days of Ken Buchanan, Jim Watt. Good jabs again from Harrison. He's got a nice repertoire about him.
But he really needs to show a bit more determination. I think Spencer was right with that comment that, you know, he needs to press down on the older guy now. He's much younger, he'll have a lot more stamina and fresher legs. He really needs to make Johnson work hard here.
This is better from Johnson, getting in with some significant looking body shots.
The problem with these older fighters that have been around a long time, and you know, when they come into the country, they start to, you know, if you let them into the fight, they start to warm up, get, you know, used to the task and get harder and harder. And really, they're the sort of opponents you've got to step on very hard right from the start.
At least it's a better work rate now from Johnson. So far, Harrison not quite so snappy and sharp as he was against Tracy Harris-Patterson.
No, he just needs to up his work rate a few more notches. Thinking about his work a little too much, I would say.
Harrison wouldn't be far away, I would think, from getting a shot at Gary Thornhill's British title. It's a good right hand, I think, there from Harrison. Johnson just sagged back against the ropes momentarily.
That was a good solid jab as well from Harrison.
Just a wee bit more devil about Harrison's work. It's more interesting now. First 3 rounds a bit like a gym session, weren't they?
Yes, they were, but I think, you know, Johnson's felt Harrison out as much as he wants to. Now he wants to try and see what Harrison's made of, trying to outwork Harrison and take the fight to him.
There's a good left hook in there from Harrison. Close-ish round, this. This one's boiling up quite interestingly. Let's take a look at the featherweight scene at the moment, and it's good reading for British boxing fans, with Nassim Hamed holding the WBO version of the title, not the WBA as it says there. Paul Ingle is the IBF champion, the Mexican Guti Espadas, the WBC champion, and Scott Harrison, you can see there, the Commonwealth title holder. Hamed, by the way, in action on August the 19th in the United States against the good left hooker from Las Vegas, Augie Sanchez. You'll catch that one on Sky, I hope, with us.
Well, Harrison's work is pretty good so far in the fight, just warming up nicely, but I think I'd like to see him push Johnson harder than he is. Just let some of the combinations go that, you know, he can throw. He puts his punches together well when he lets combinations go, and we need to see more of those.
Black trunks, remember, the young Scot from Cambuslang, a former joiner who's been boxing since he was 15 years of age.
And a terrific amateur pedigree. Scottish ABA champion at 17 and gold medalist in European juniors. Really went through the amateurs. Still turned professional very young, but did an awful lot in his amateur career.
He did too. He just missed Olympic selection as well. He was beaten in a box-off against David Burke for the last Olympic Games, which must have been a bit of a heartbreaker for him. He's got a grim determination about him, Harrison. He's serious about this business. He's being asked some quite big questions early on in his career, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's been asked a few questions here. Just seems to be, you know, asking himself questions here. You know, he's thinking about it a bit too much, struggling to get his shots off the way we're used to seeing him.
Good right hand, though, well picked by Harrison. I think he's in a pretty handy lead at this point, though, even though Johnson is picking it up. But there may be one or two little twists in this one before it's over with. This is certainly a better Johnson performance already than his hapless effort against Charles Shepherd in Carlisle. He was pathetic that night, wasn't he, frankly?
Yes, he couldn't do anything, but I think the style of Charles Shepherd gave him all sorts of problems. He never really had any room to work. It was a messy fight, and you know, I don't think he was happy with his own performance.
Messy's being kind. It was terrible.
Yes, it was pretty dismal, wasn't it?
It was. Body shots again from Johnson, beginning to try to put some pressure on this young man. Whatever else has happened to Tom Johnson, and there's no doubt his skills have eroded with time, he still has his pride.
Yes, he's picking away, he's letting the punches go. Still the better punches, the cleaner punches are coming from Harrison, but he's keeping himself busy in there, Johnson.
Quite neatly stepping back out of range and making Johnson miss on occasion, mind you, Scott Harrison. Another of the good wins that Harrison's already had was over Pat Mullings to win the Commonwealth crown, and he won a real stormer against Smith Odum of Ghana to win this very championship, the Inter-Continental. Johnson, who's come from a troubled background. His father was murdered and two of his managers were shot dead. He's had about 4 or 5 managers, I think, in his career.
You wouldn't want that job, really, would you? I don't know what happens to them. It's not a job you want.
Well, I think at one point he was partially blinded in a car crash as well, and he's come back from all of this.
He's had a tough time, and it's hard to keep a career together when things like that are happening in your life. There's the good jabs from Harrison. He just keeps putting that punch out there. He had the better of the shots, right hands like that. There was a good left hook later in the round.
Dad in the corner with Scott Harrison seems to be the way of things these days. More and more father and son partnerships. Into the second half of the fight. Harrison on the left of your picture in the black trunks. Good left hook to the body from Johnson.
Yes, Johnson, he was just bending his knee, just trying to get a bit more power into those shots. And 2 decent left hooks from him.
2 British and 1 American judge scoring this one. Johnson's corner calling out to him, let them go. Keith Jackson is his main trainer these days.
Well, Johnson's showing that he's far from completely washed up still. You know, he's still pushing Harrison a bit here.
And he still knows those moves as well. That's the move he favours a lot, isn't it, Scott Harrison? Doubling up with the jab and then whipping in the right hand.
That's right. And you can tell Johnson's not going because his balance is still there. You see fighters when they start to go too far, their balance goes. They go very flat-footed and they look very unsteady on the legs all the time. Well, Johnson's done that. He still boxes with a nice rhythm.
And he's putting in a real effort here, Tom Johnson. That was a low blow. Keep them up, says referee Paul Thomas to Johnson. That's a great right hand from Harrison. Just bounced off the chin, though, of Johnson. That time he was just rocked a little by the right. May have been more off balance than anything. There was another good shot from the young Scot.
Yes, there's a few good ones went in there from Harrison, and I just do feel the legs went a little bit. He just looks a bit more unsteady on his legs, Johnson.
Keep a close watch on that. Certainly one of those punches just seemed to travel through to the sole of the boots of Johnson.
No, Johnson hit Harrison with a couple of good ones there. Nice right uppercut went in.
That's a nice right hand twice over too from Johnson, who's beginning to rediscover the old fires a bit here. Big effort from Johnson. Can he sustain it at 36 years of age? He looks tired in there.
He looks tired, but he's still having successes, and I give him that round. You know, Harrison got through with a couple of good ones, just wobbled Johnson for a second, but Johnson came back at him strong, and he really is making Harrison think in there. A little bit off balance on that one. The left hook got through, but he missed with the right hand. That one maybe looked a bit better than it actually was because he stumbled back.
Quite interesting, this. It's a good little test for Scott Harrison. I must say I like him, the young featherweight from Scotland. I think he's got something. And as I keep on saying, we need all the stars we can get coming through in British boxing. That's a good right again from Johnson. Harrison looking to shove his man off. He got a warning from Paul Thomas about doing that in the last round. Maybe just trying to prove to Johnson that as the younger man by, 14 years, he has superior strength.
Well, I'm certainly not seeing this like Harrison having it all his way. I've only got a couple of points separating them. Harrison's going to be getting told off, I think, for the pushing that he's doing when they get in close. I think you might have it a fair bit wider.
I've got it wider. I certainly gave Harrison the first 3. It's evened up a little since then. Well, it's evened up a lot since then. Well, this is good because Johnson here is showing some real ambition in the fight. He's not just here to go through the motions, collect the payday as an aging journeyman. He's fighting now as if he's really going for the victory.
Well, he said he'd found new motivation. He wanted to get a world title fight again. And he's fighting like he means it.
So can Harrison stay with him? Only been beaten once in his career, and that was on a cut eye against the 100-fight-plus veteran Miguel Matthews.
That was a nice combination there from Harrison. Looks much better when he puts the punches together in 3s and 4s.
That's a great left uppercut from Harrison there. He does have a pretty extensive toolbox. It's a good round, Glenn.
It's a very good round. Johnson just saying to the youngster, anything you can do, I can do as well. Come back with his punches, but better ones from Harrison.
Some trading, some good blows, these two here. The young hopeful and the former world champ.
Well, he really is showing some mettle, Johnson, pushing the fight, taking the fight to Harrison. Harrison needs to keep the pressure on. Nice right hand again from him.
Well, it's a good round, very good round of action. And here's Frans Botha, the self-styled White Buffalo, arriving for action at the London Arena tonight. He's looked so cool all week, always with the dark glasses, usually some jewellery around, but not this evening. Only beaten twice in 44 fights and has performed respectably at world level. He's not a man just to write off, Botha, even though the bookmakers have Lennox Lewis at, well, between 12-1 on and 16-1 on. Interestingly, I was talking to one of the top American commentators, the old Colonel, Bob Sheridan. He says Botha will cause a sensation tonight, that he'll beat Lennox Lewis.
Well, that's a big shout indeed. The Colonel's, we're used to a few big shouts from him, but that is probably one of his biggest, I think.
And he's a big guy to make a big shout as well.
Well, you certainly listen to him. You can hear him from anywhere.
I'm not arguing with him. Here's the 9th. Well, it's proved to be a meaningful test, this, and more, for Scott Harrison. Decent body shots. Johnson says a year or so back he was doing too many things in his life, trying to promote young fighters, manage a few of them, run his clubs, and he'd taken his eye off the ball a bit as far as boxing. He says he's now put those things to one side. He's concentrating on his fighting again, and I think you're seeing the results in here.
I think really Harrison needs to keep good pressure on Johnson. He can't, let him get really strongly into this fight. He's really got to, keep the jab in his face, keep the punches going.
Legs still look pretty good for Johnson. Able to give it some lateral movement. Maybe Harrison and his camp and family thought this might be a slightly easier assignment than this. must say there were quite a few of us who had Tom Johnson in the shot fighter category going into this, but I think he's proved that there's still a little life there yet. Good work this by Johnson, doubling up on the jab and starting to show some of those technical skills that made him such a formidable operator in his World Championship days.
Well, he's certainly managing to give Harrison some trouble in there.
He's outworking him in this round so far. Now Harrison has had enough of that and is starting to try to let some big rights go. Good burst from Harrison.
Well, this is warmed up to be a very good fight with a far from faded Tom Johnson.
Just single shots from Harrison. Johnson's round for me, that. Three rounds to go. How's your scorecard looking, Glenn?
Well, I've got Harrison ahead, but just by 2 points. Johnson's still managing to pick a round up here and there and keep himself in the fight. Harrison picking the better punches. His always look better when he gets his combination on. Always looks much more impressive. But Johnson still keeps working throughout the round, still keeps peppering Harrison with shots.
I have it a little wider for Harrison at this point. But Johnson is showing that he can still make a serious argument of this, and it's no formality, this. Interesting to know how the judges are seeing it. Roy Francis and Terry O'Connor from England, and Michael Pernick from Miami in the United States. Johnson comes out for the 438th round of his career, and Harrison for the 85th of his. Massive gulf and experience. Both of them well proven over the 12-round trip. Must be a little question about Johnson's legs at this advanced stage of his career in what's been a quite hard 12-rounder, but let's see.
Well, it really will be a good learning experience, this, for Scott Harrison. It's turned out to be the right sort of fight for him at this stage of his career.
He's certainly seeing a few moves he won't ever have encountered before. Harrison taking the fight to Johnson in the 10th.
Well, he needs to do that. He needs to keep the pressure on him. He needs to keep a good work rate, Harrison.
There's that skipping back out of range, and then nice combinations from Harrison. Nicely picked punches. He finished very, very strongly in America against Tracy Harris Patterson last time. And I seem to remember him putting together one blistering combination of about a dozen punches towards the end. Do you remember that, Glenn?
Yep, he can do that. When he lets his combinations go, he looks really good. He can, he can do most things quite well, Scott Harrison. You've got to give credit to Tom Johnson. He came here, he's mended, he's really tried to push hard.
But this is Harrison's round so far. he's done much more. The American's just been a bit quiet.
Well, you think the pace of the fight, you think he'd be getting to Johnson at this stage. He'd be starting to tire some whole legs in there.
He's put in a really good effort, but he's been sleepy in this 11th, and that's Harrison's round beyond dispute. Let's go to Adam Smith.
Far closer fight than we could have imagined beforehand.
Yeah, no, I've only got Harrison a couple of rounds up. The problem has been, you know, Harrison's been one-paced all through this fight. He's give Johnson too much respect, give him too much room. Really, he's got to jump on him, apply the pressure, and really pick it up these last couple of rounds, because he hasn't looked as impressive as when he beat Tracy Patterson. He really has got to apply the pressure a bit more.
Can he stop him? Is Johnson tiring?
No, I don't think so. You know, I think that Johnson has got enough up there, you know, to mess himself around for the next couple of rounds. And Harrison, like I said, has been too one-paced. He really has got to pick it up these last couple of rounds.
Thanks very much, Spencer.
Well, you saw there that computer printout that the difference so far is in accuracy. Johnson's throwing more punches but landing a whole lot less. Only a 16% success rate for him. And according to the computer, 28% so far for Harrison. Two rounds to go. This is the 11th. I think I might have inadvertently said the last round was the 11th at one point. Sorry about that.
Well, if he is starting to feel the effects a bit of the fight, he is starting to tire a bit. Harrison will be the one that will feel it. He'll be able to feel Johnson weakening. He needs to put the pressure on him.
Big left hook. Sent the sweat spraying from Johnson's head. These jabs being blocked largely on the gloves and arms of Harrison. He's done that to quite good effect. But Spencer Oliver's right. He hasn't looked as snappy and sharp as he did the night he beat Tracy Harris Patterson.
I think, you know, he probably hasn't been as fired up for this one. That was a much tougher test, I think he will have thought. This one maybe just believed Johnson was over the hill a bit and took it a little bit lightly.
Good body shots there from Johnson. He was never known as a huge puncher, even as a world champion. Johnson, he often had to go the full route, but he's got some great names on his record, like Manuel Medina twice, Troy Dorsey, Sugar Baby Rojas, Eddie Croft, and so on. He does incidentally say, Johnson, that Hamed didn't hit him hardest. That was Eva Baleño, he says. Maybe just wanted to deny Naz the pleasure of hearing it.
Well, Naz hit him hard enough to cause him his only stoppage defeat.
Exactly, so exactly.
I think he must have, really.
Yeah.
He's trying to paw away with punches, Johnson, but Harrison is very good and picks them off with his right hand, just catches them.
Referee doesn't like this pushing off that Harrison is doing from time to time. That's a nicely picked right hand, overhand right from young Scott Harrison. Got a nice rhythm about him. Some people might interpret it as being one-paced. The uppercut was a choice shot too, by the look of it.
Yes, he was working well inside, just chose to stay there, hands up, nice defense, and pick some good shots. Harrison's round, I think.
Yeah, I thought Johnson did good work in the first half of the round, and then Harrison in the second half. It's tightish.
There's the good left hook, just managing to bring the more eye-catching punches out between the two. Stayed well inside, and then just come out with that big left hook.
Here's that lovely right hand.
Johnson just rode the sting out of it, just moved his body away so it didn't hurt that much, but he does pick the shots. A good right uppercut there from Harrison.
Oh, it really was a very good shot. It looked even better, didn't it, in slow motion. Punches landed, according to the computer, and we're not arguing with them. 208 to 162. 3 minutes to go. Final round. Harrison in black trunks. I've got him in a handy lead. What about you, Glenn?
Yeah, I've got him 4 points ahead. A good lead. It's been a good fight, even though the referee given a clap to these two competitors.
And a lot of the credit goes to Johnson as well for bringing some ambition with him from America this time. If Harrison can do it here, it's going to look a very good name on his record. Tom Johnson has made him work all the way here and stretched him at times. Body shots from Johnson. Watch the head work, says the referee.
There's a nice uppercut inside from Harrison.
Good work rate from both of them here in this final session. Particularly good left hook from Johnson.
Well, he's trying to throw the punches, but just falling short with that combination, Harrison.
Fighting here for one of those Intercontinental stepping stone titles, which Harrison currently holds, as well as his Commonwealth crown. Good little right hand from him. Been a great effort from the pair of them here. Crowd have enjoyed it here at the London Arena tonight. No knockdowns, and it doesn't look like we're going to get one either.
Well, both men trying to throw a combination. They're both tired now. Not as much movement. They're standing inside, but both letting go with good punches.
Again, that eye-catching right hand from Harrison. But look at Johnson. He's worked so hard in this final session. Maybe in his head he really thinks he's got a chance of taking this on the scorecards too.
Well, he's certainly trying. It's a good effort from him in this round.
I think he realizes last time he was in Britain against Shepherd, he didn't do himself justice. There's the final bell. The embrace of mutual respect between two pro fighters. Johnson's lifted aloft by his handlers. Harrison punches his fist out to the crowd, and I think he won that on points personally, but that's only my view. Look at that. Johnson threw over 1,000 shots to Harrison's 852, but Harrison landed significantly more, about 60 more.
Yes, he just did the better work, the more quality. He caught an awful lot of Johnson's punches on his gloves, and I think that was the difference, and that's where Johnson was wasting a lot of punches. But it was a good last round from Johnson. I think I would have given that, and I made it 3 points clear for Harrison. Just the better work. But it was a good effort from Tom Johnson.
I've got Harrison by 4 on my card, and I just gave that final round to Johnson. There's Glenn's scorecard for you, 116 to 113. Purely official. The only scorecards that count are those of Roy Francis, Terry O'Connor, who was sitting right by us, and Michael Pernick from Miami in the USA. There they are, in full Technicolor for you. We're going to get the decision any moment from Michael Buffer. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, we go to the scorecards. Terry O'Connor scores about 117 to 113. Roy Francis has it 119 to 111. And Michael Pernick scores it 119 to 109, all for the winner by unanimous decision, and still the reigning IBO Intercontinental Featherweight champion, Scott Harrison.
Scott Harrison, a rueful shrug from Tom Johnson, who may have felt that those cards were a little wide against him. Terry O'Connor by 4 rounds, Roy Francis by 8, and Michael Pernick from Miami by 10 points, which seems very, very wide, I must say, but a good win for Scott Harrison.
A round of applause with these, ladies and gentlemen, for the former
backstage. Adrian Stone is getting ready. This is a very interesting character. Bristol to the United States, learned the trade in the USA the way Lennox Lewis did, but back here now and really starting to make a mark in the light middleweight division. He's up against the former British welterweight champion Jeff McCreesh, and that one's coming next.